Why don't we also take the time and the opportunity? You know, everybody has their own vibration, their own tone of celebration. Every time I hear someone, say wholeness and balanced vibrations, I want to unmute my mic and be like, you. But I of course want to keep the continuum happening, but I do want to give an opportunity for us all to just unmute the lines, and whether it's an applause, whether it's a call, just give it to yourself again, and give it to the tribe 100%. It's a powerful opportunity. So yeah, let's just unmute the mics and
oh man.
Some balanced vibrations, family.
Wow. Wholeness. Yes.
Balanced vibration.
Yes.
Wholeness and balanced vibration.
Run it.
We love you.
Yeah, and all of that.
yes.
All
Yes. Yes. That's the perfect way to begin a session together. So let me do this really quick. Let me see what's up with my system here. I trust that I'm coming through clear. Wow, if your hands is clean, just put your hands on your face and feel yourself, and just smooth into the energy, because it just feels good. There doesn't have to be any reason, just taking an opportunity to connect with yourself and connect with being here now, bring the consciousness into the space. You can have so many different things that you're connected to. You're connected to everything. And when you open your eyes, all of the energy and all the power comes into this moment. And some of us have been up all day, bringing our energy into various aspects of this reality. And now here we are in actuality at Tribe Vibes, the time and the opportunity to connect into the space with those around us that are also resonating and vibrating during this time. And we know that that is important. In fact, this is a sacred time that we also have an opportunity to touch and connect. For those that are new, we did some orientation today. It was amazing. And this is the sign that we use for universal connection, an awareness that we are infinite. We see these two raised and outstretched hands. It's the highest level of energy moving through your body. You would just be like, standing straight and receiving everything that you have from the heavens and from the earth. We would see how all of the electromagnetics that are inside of the, this ionic envelope that we're in, it's just tingling around the fingers and coming down from the sky, while below us, the feet and the sole of the foot are receiving the magnetism of the earth, which is grounding and amplifying that energy. And that's just what's happening. It's so important these days to see the value in that, and to see the value in yourself. Because what I feel is really happening in the world is deeper than a wake-up call. It's more of like, hey, here's the opportunity for you to do what you said you were going to do, what you're supposed to be doing, what we need you to do. And this is your parents talking. And because life only has so much, physical life only has so much realness to it, there's a lot of this existence that exists internally. So we spend a lot of time in just dealing with the physical realities and what's going on in the physical reality. But we have to know, of course, that it would make up roughly half, if you may. Some say a lot less, but we'll just say at least half of our existence. So here in this space, we give the other half of our existence the opportunity. And I don't want to finish touching and connecting here. I do want to finish my expression. So I just have to dial you in for one moment to why we connect in the space, how we're connecting, how it all works, because you get an opportunity to use it for yourself. You get an opportunity to teach others to use it. And what it is this ability for us to take a moment in infinite time and recognize that we are here, we are standing, we are strong, And that's a big mosquito come through here. Yeah, we're strong, we're aware, we're awake, we're active, and we're also very comfortable in the flow of these times to be able to allow ourselves to adapt to what is happening around us while still maintaining our core values and continuously looking to expand who we are, but know also when it's time to contract, that we breathe in and that we breathe out. And even in this flow, we tune into the mediumship. This is, there's lots of ships running around. So they got the relationship, the companionship, the partnership. I would love to have each of these on the shelf. Like, that's my partnership right there. There's my relationship right there. Has, just the design of the vehicle and how efficient they can be in. But the mediumship is the time where we have an opportunity to stand in the balance. And in that balance, you're a channel. A channel means you can listen to what is being said from both sides. And wow, an ode to just how interesting that can be for the mind and the consciousness, because it's very difficult to focus on two different things. It's very difficult to be completely balanced with two things that are in opposition with each other. But yet, this is the matter at hand. So I wanted to take the time and the opportunity to recognize that and to recognize this incredible adventure that we're on for everything that it's worth. And for us all to remember that we still have each other. We have these moments. There's a lot of busyness in the air. The frequencies are for sure, the channels are clogged in many ways. And so sometimes the transitions come through distorted. Sometimes communications get botched up in the channels of what we're experiencing at the moment. It's interesting because when you're talking to someone physically, you can kind of see what they're physically doing and engaging in as you're communicating with them. Versus when you call someone on the phone, you don't even know what they're doing, what they're dealing with, or what they're going through. When you text somebody something, you don't know what they're going through, what they're feeling. And I find that this is also that behind the scenes that seems to be a very strong tampering space for this current reality and how it likes to cook up strange synchronicities that don't necessarily connect with who we are. So what I'm saying perfectly is that you're just coming out of a amazing meditation right to somebody's text message of exactly opposite to that energy. And you have not even had the opportunity to fully digest, your experience before you're thrown into another frequency. And so standing in this gap, this power is the mediumship, because when you think that, oh man, that means I will have to become like the being that's listening to both of the worlds, and you get to go into that, that's probably one of the sides of your brain. No, what the mediumship is actually the perfect conduit for those energies to communicate with each other so they can dissolve whatever it is that they feel like they can't see. So a clear medium then is what one would seek to be within themselves. So that way they can just say it like it is and bring it like it is. And there then becomes the trust, because the moment is so electrostatic with the magic that makes things happen. There just has to be this trust at every moment that every moment you go into is going to be perfectly designed. You're going to be perfectly ready. But we have our tool belt, if you may. We have the things that actually help us be that way as much as possible, because we know the value of that. So I do want to say, for the record, for everyone here, that there are many of these spaces here open. These spaces where we've had the opportunity to touch and connect and agree. And if you're ever feeling like, hey, I'm really downtrodden, as there's another word, right? Like, I really am not feeling the reality right now. I feel like a lot of stuff is happening and it's taking me into all types of frequencies, and I need help, but I don't know who to call on. Look within yourself and remember these moments, because these are the moments that are full of infinite power. And it's because we've had the opportunity to bring the complete spectrum here. It was our intention. So while the world waits on unity, we actually have it here and we enjoy it. So wholeness and balanced vibrations to everyone. Thank you. As that mediumship continues, because, I always look every day to be clearer and clearer, to be more and more of myself, you know, despite the electronics, despite the responsibilities, the world, and all of the stuff that it has go on. I know me, and I've seen so much of me and enough to take interest to want to see more. You know, that's how you have to treat yourself, is like just realizing that, you know, maybe there is some potential that you need to grow into, but you're doing exceptionally well. We need to really see this bud and see what it really has, because my hunch is even when whatever people think is death occurs, you would stay in full touch with every single thing that you ever had come to know. And it matters not if somebody came back and explained how they were capable of doing that and that they did it. It would just be a gift that is given to you because you knew that was something that you wanted. And so when we crystallize our highest desires, which we've discussed sometimes here on our builds from time to time, it's really about remaining in tune and remaining conscious of everything that we've come to explore and everything that we've come to know. What I want to do now is I want to really give an analysis of what I see happening inside of the space, Earth, and how I feel it's best to navigate the space from henceforth. I like to do that from time to time. As I mentioned before, there seems to be a transition also taking place within Secret Energy and within Sovereignty Mentorship, where we're coming into our final refinements, and it's great. Like I'm super excited to what comes next, and it's great to see everything coming into an exact order. And there also being a roadmap of creativity in front of us, not so much as just this is a hard-coded path. It's more of that we just have everything that it takes to create what we want and what we need. When your needs begin to transfer into your wants, let's say that. Because there's still a lot of needs that we see that are necessary, not only in our community, also with our children. We see a lot of things happening, and it can kind of get like, well, it can be chaotic, right? And sometimes you can stop addressing certain things, and then things start piling up on you. So it's like one thing is like, you know what, I'll get back to that later. And then now a new thing comes, and then now you have like 3 or 4 things that you have yet to address. And those things start to kind of weigh on you. And they also have a tendency to bring you more into the physicality, because it's like, okay, I gotta wake up into this and deal with this, versus maybe how your being and your consciousness may be sometimes, which is just off really in another vibration, another frequency. Sometimes we never think about, even when we go into our conscious, we start taking breaths. We start meditating, we're already gone. Like, we're really not in things that are strictly about the physicality, the earth, government, all that kind of stuff. And so the intelligence and the wisdom that we've gained in this process is to still be able to check base from time to time and say, hey, you know, this is moving, it's constantly changing. All of our teachings, which abide by the blueprint, they are flexible to what is happening. And if you know how to adapt, then it's a perfect fit. But in that process of actually learning, as what we would call the adepthood, you still have to go through the lessons themselves. And so we're here to really function in the capacity of assisting in the lesson that you're going to have to go through. Right. So it's like the training for the test, but you still got to take the test. We can't take the test for you. That makes no sense. It makes no sense for your parents to have to go through all the process that they're trying to teach you how to go through. They'd rather have you right in it and going through it. So they could give you as much assistance even as you need. Like, notice how if you know how to ask, you know, someone will teach you anything. And so sometimes we may just not even ask. We may try to go at it on our own. Like, you know what, I'm going to teach this to myself. So there's this respect that also comes in the reality where you realize that there are certain things that you may not be the most proficient at teaching yourself. So you seek, right? And some say you're contacting your ancestors. Some say you're on your DNA chain and it's connecting in with other things that are in your history that already have that knowledge. So there's many explanations, and all of them to me sound great. Many of them sound very viable, enough for me to know one of those is correct. And I have this ability to connect through infinity, which was the beginning of all of this, where everything was still distilled in that perfect, basically in that perfect form. And that's our algorithm. So because we are aware of this transition between, let's say, the being young versus being adult, we have to ask ourselves, what would it be like if we were responsible for everyone? Like, what would it be like to be responsible for everyone? And see, and this awareness is not even far-fetched, because one rung down, our parents in many ways were responsible for us. If you have children, you know you're responsible for your children. So all the children that you have in your house, you're responsible for. So one envelope up, the house is bigger, and all of the things are seen as children of that. So there's this responsibility for everything. And how many beings are actually equipped to take on that responsibility, seeing that this seems to be a learning process? If we can admit that we're supremes, we are gods, we can also admit that the gods and the supremes went through the same process that we're going through now. So it wasn't all carved out for them. Whatever actually put that in play was like, oh, I'm not trying to just give it to you. I want you to learn it. And there's a difference. You know, when you really see that, like, learning something seems like a gift, but there's an action in between there. And you can bridge the gap by making the actions at times to make sure that you're connecting to that higher source, if you may, or that greater source of yourself. Like, it's just like an extension. It's just reaching out. It kind of reminds me, you know, when they show the finger, touching the finger of God and all this kind of stuff. It's just reaching out and making sure you still got your hand out to be able to go halfway. And in these times, if you do that, it actually will have a great deal of benefit for you, because the realm is super close together even right now as we speak. So there's a lot of energy that is there, and that energy can be turned into wisdom and wiseness. And it can teach you about things that may take others thousands of years to learn. This experience that we're going through right now could be the ultimate training simulation, if you may, for you in the next level of your experience, where, as I said, when you quote unquote die, you're fully active and actually able to reboot and tap into and have full integration, if you may, through your memories. And so, but as I mentioned, this is to be adept, this is to be adult. So it does involve taking on the energy of, like, let's see how much I can lift. If I had to be the earth's parent, I would have to be responsible for all of us. And what's nearly not looked for, though, is somebody who doesn't know how to handle that responsibility. Like, if you ever seen your parents just break down under the pressure, it's tough. It's tough because, you know, as you're seeing your parents like gods, and that they protect you. And then when you see them go through something where they can't protect themselves, it's just crushing. And so here we are today to stand, to fortify ourselves, to realize what it is to actually have a fortress that will endure, to get serious about life in our consciousness, those around us, those that we have been placed guardians over to protect, and to also still realize that all of what we see happening, while definitely feeling and seeming very real, is not all there is to existence. So this puts you in a keen opportunity, because you can watch over yourself and see yourself going through these times. And even if you can't make or couldn't make a decision now that you wanted to make, that you still keep at it to make sure next time you have to make decisions like that, that you can make the decision that you want. And I'm going to explain that in depth here. So we spoke last week, or last strong, because I'm not sure what everybody else is on, but we were strong last week. We were strong those few days. Look, strong days week. You know, that's the code of the matrix. Men, days, week. So these words meaning something that takes and removes energy from you. If you're in a daze, if you're weak, if you're min or minute, these are the units of time. And it does kind of hold replete though, because when you're in time and you're aging in time and time is finally trying to get its grip on you and you start accepting that this is going to be it and all that kind of stuff, you know, all that happens. You start, you know, you get a little bit dazed by the reality. It's almost like you're punch drunk, right? Like so much stuff can happen and the news is all crazy and the next movie and the damn Isaac Asimov with the drums and the beats and all this kind of stuff and the graphics and all this. And like your nerves are just like completely stretched out. And it's just like, wow, like the being that we're actually in these times is going through a lot. And in that process, what I wanted to bring awareness to is that we talked about how there could be like this pretend and there could be this like illusionary nature to reality. That so many things can be happening around you. It can kind of draw you into the reality and it's like being in a movie. Right, it's like, oh, this stuff is happening around me. So I'm like, I literally switched from watching this on TV to now living in it. What's going on? And it's like, we spoke on how there was like this illusionary field that is around the reality that's kind of like the skin over it. And what I see that illusionary aspect of the reality, which we've actually grown to create things in, and we use it almost like PlayStation where we manifest in it. It's like Play-Doh. It's like a Lego. We just kind of put stuff together and build it together and live in it. You know, it's kind of like Roblox. You know, we just have this thing where we just create stuff. We create our house. We go and live in it. We create the things that we'd like to have around us, and we solder it all together and saw it together and all that, and then we build it. And that's what we do. We live inside of our projections, and we create things inside of our projections. But the field in which all that stuff is created for, it can also be used to spread like an energetic flow across different spaces. And we can see now, especially in society, that we have that energy in our environments all the time. That's whether it's the cell phone, whether it's the TV, whether it's the YouTube, social media, all these different things are different vibrations and frequencies that have access into our space. And we also have access into those spaces. So we call them like their pipelines or their tubes. And so these pipelines and these tubes is kind of the visualization of what you would see like in the scene, The Matrix, when they kind of had to unplug Neo from the Matrix. This is just symbolic to all of these different things that you're involved in and all the different people thinking and talking about you and all the plans that you have for the future and all this kind of stuff is basically plugged right into you. It's kind of like becoming or has become your network. It is woven within your DNA. And so that field itself is what we're addressing right now, when I wanted to make sure that we're not falling into the byproduct of what I would say are empty threats and inaccurate data. Okay, if you want to write that down, that we're basically, we don't want to fall into the field of empty threats and inaccurate data. You can imagine there's lots of pit bulls. You know, they want to scare the hell out of you, but you know that saying, are you going to bark all day, doggy, or are you going to bite? Like you could see where there's like a movie, they may even get the music going on in the news now. And they got this whole story that they're putting together and they got that same lady in the monotone and she's narrating the whole thing. And it's like, this is an act in itself of theatrics of convincing everybody on that other side that this is what's happening. This is what's real. This is what you should be paying attention to. When most of that is generally empty threats. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're seeing a lot of this now. Just a news article. Oh, the governor says he's going to do X and people need to do this. And then you already got people lining up to go do it. Like, oh, shit, let me get away from the governor. Let me get, stay in compliance. Let me stay in conformance. I don't want to buck the society. That's why we end up having so many rebels on the side of consciousness, because they was never playing the radio anyway with the whole, the fictitious game and scheme that everything is all perfect in the reality. So they were breaking out of the Matrix early. But then you had this other group of people that they wanted to stay in the Matrix so much and wanted to be comfortable in the Matrix because they had developed a fear of confronting what's controlling the matrix around us, or what can control the matrix around us. And that has been done through even the abuses that we've seen that has happened to a variety, almost all cultures, if not all cultures. Right? So if you're from Poland, if you're from Ghana, the story of your people about 4 or 5 generations ago is dealing with a lot of the controller's heavy hand. So, of course, genetically, one would kind of start either completely bucking, like you just like every time you come back stronger and you're more aggressive, and you're always consistently in your DNA a problem and a thorn in their side, or you would be after generations more conforming. You would even start birthing children that would actually work on the sides of opposition. And this is still the ebb and the flow of the DNA of the pattern of the person. So this is also like when we go to do work, we can visualize those kind of things. When you're pulling somebody out of the matrix or changing them from being what would be an Agent Smith and they don't even know it. That's the other thing about, like, if you watch the movie, every time Agent Smith jumps into something, the person does not know that they are being taken over by Agent Smith. It's just that they've kind of conformed so much to the reality that they've let certain parts of themselves go. So they've actually opened up certain things within themselves that allow them to be a direct channel for that kind of frequency, right? And so with recognizing this and realizing this around us, we have to come into alignment with making sure that we're not making decisions in our lives. Also, we're not screwing up our nervous system, becoming all crazy just because of what you're hearing every day on some of these channels or from your friends, that you start making irrational decisions. Okay? Because really what we're dealing with right now, it is a test to see what the response is. So even if you found yourself thinking a certain way or doing certain things, never think that you don't have the opportunity to correct the pattern. If you found yourself in a position where you had to do something that you did not like, now you got to kind of come into that awareness, like, okay, I'm starting to get into the field of where I'm doing things that I don't like to do. It's encroaching on me now. But then you also come to the awareness that there's actually been quite a few things that you've been accepting that you don't like to do. And because everybody else does them, you're doing them too, like going to work and all this other stuff, right? And then you start falling in on yourself, like, I got to go to work because we all got to make money and nobody has it. And all of this is just the chaos going on inside of your own field. It's like your own little pain box until you realize how to unlock yourself and get out of it. So when you're seeing all this happen in the reality, the last thing you want to do, especially since you've been doing a lot of work at releasing yourself from all of that, is put yourself back into it. So I want to mention that, yes, there is a lot of occultism taking place in the media and all the different things that we see going on around us. But the strongest arm that is being used is really a psychological arm. It's like psychology braids even so well with spirituality that it's very, very easy as a psychologist to actually, if you're a psychological metaphysicist, if you're basically a psychological metaphysicist, it's very easy for you to see how energies and entities and colors and vibrations and things transition over to the spiritual connection and ability and power of the being. So if the reality, though, is constantly a spiritual setting, it's not even possible to integrate even many of the technologies and many of the ways of life that have been implemented right now. So it has to be moved over into another field rather than spirituality. That spirit field is called psychological. But it's all to do with the mind, because to me, spirituality is best dissected through the mind to see how the mind can travel through the spirit world. So these psychological tactics that we see in these times, I feel like at this point, if I wanted to narrow it down, I can narrow it down to 2 words: FUD and FOMO. They are 2 words that have recently really been introduced into our language more and our vernacular more. And that's, of course, with the advent of cryptocurrency. But it actually is in itself the perfect template to see how this reality interacts with the stimulus of everyone through these 2 forces, FUD and FOMO. It's interesting they begin with the F. So as we know, FUD means fear, or is an acronym for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And what they say is around this behavior, the person acts as such. They generally will liquidate or sell or give away or give up on something that they have actually put way more time, energy, and intention in. And they will basically take a loss for something that they fear is going to happen in the future. And that fear can also come from them starting to see something that they begin to interpret and others begin to interpret around them as being a very negative event. And just like that, a cascade of events can occur that almost make this FUD, if we want to say it, seem real. Now, remember, we're talking about still the illusionary nature of the reality in the components in which the illusionary nature can use to like paint a dream around you to get you to kind of make certain decisions. And then all of a sudden that dream just disappears and you find yourself back in the regular world, but you have made certain decisions already. So when the fear, uncertainty, and doubt fields start really sweeping the land, this is the perfect time to go into your mediumship. Because yeah, if you know you can take this because you're an adept, so you can cut on YouTube or cut on some of these channels, right? Because this is channeling, and actually receive whatever is coming across that channel and have some type of use for it, then obviously you're not the person I'm talking about. But if when you turn on these channels, they start to make an impression about how you are guiding your life, and especially things that you've already set in stone that you're going to do, and it starts to kind of shake you off your stone. Now, the reason why it's so important to look at this and so fun to look at this from even investment level, which is where the term is predominantly used, the actions also go across the board. So a person, again, will sell whatever it is that they've been working so hard on and get rid of it just to try to escape the ultimate debt or to escape the ultimate loss. So it's like taking a loss in order to take less of a loss, right? And so when the reality starts to cook again this kind of energy up, you really want to be on point and think about what are the facts around what is being told, or what is being talked about and what is being said to do. Now, also, I'll just finish this complete system of awareness that, no, let's give an example here. So there was fear, uncertainty, and doubt around this last, I guess they call it a bull run. Bitcoin went to $60,000 about 4 months ago and then fell from there all the way down to as low as $30,000. Now, we're using this as an example. In this whole process down, you had multiple people assuming that it was all over, that it would go back to $5,000. And when others were getting this information, they kind of turned back on their whole idea and plan about whether they were going to go into a future more of sovereignty, become more wealthy. Everybody basically had plans set up, but the fear and the certainty and doubt kind of washed those plans away. Now, notice how this can also happen in the reality. They could be talking about, okay, we're about to, bring in this kind of system, and now you're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z anymore. And then all your plans, it's just like you see this ocean just crashing into your plans and your plans are gone. However, as an analogy, today, Bitcoin sits at $60,000 again. Just again, now if it goes to 20, whatever, who cares? It's here again. And everybody else that was still saying it was never going to get here and already took a loss, they basically took a loss for nothing. And when we take that as an example, we got to really be on point in this reality, because remember, these are people that they live in a house, they have wife, children, some invested things. They're people just like me and you. And nobody has money to throw away. So people are making financial decisions because they feel that, hey, I need to diversify. It's just something that through time and through adepthood, you realize that I don't really want to have all of my assets in something that's correlated. Even if it's $20, $50, $100, investment starts with $100. Right? They're showing how a person investing $1,000 in Shiba Inu, when it dropped, would have $3 million, $30 million right now from $1,000. So the opportunities and the portals are open in many different ways, not even just in cryptocurrency, but in life. I've never seen any real series of events lead to something like you went to college, so then you got this job, and then the job pays you. Like life doesn't work linear like that. It's non-linear where, based on what you attract and what you believe can happen, a series of events begin to take place, and next thing you know, you're in that scenario. So always remember that if you can't see the direct connection with where you feel like you need to be, no matter. You have an ability, as long as you know how to amplify your energy, to begin to create that lattice work, to be able to create that actual space inside of a realm that eventually brings it here through a series of events. But you got to stay consistent. You cannot let your whole projection get wiped out by a big wave. And in this case, a wave of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Now there's another one, because not everybody learns that way. Some people don't respond to fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We call them diamond hands, right? It just means the person that they're going to sell in the first place. They're like in for the long haul. They've already done their research and everything. They've stuck to their principles, and then they're just, they don't even deal with and look at it. It's not an emotional thing. So remember, that's kind of like energy going one way when we're talking about FUD. So there's a FOMO. And oftentimes that same person that is impervious to FUD can get caught up in FOMO. FOMO means the fear of missing out. So I called my friend the other day because, as you know, recently they just kind of start playing around in a little bit of the news and stuff like that. And they're saying they're about to make some stuff mandatory here in Costa Rica. We won't say the word, but for workers and people who are actually in society. And people who are working for jobs, if you need to go to the bank. And it's interesting because the way the stipulations actually are, it already lets you know really what kind of future things what kind of future and how things will really work in the future. It's just simply the aspect of this system ready to say, okay, if you are wealthy or closer to being sovereign and you don't want to participate in the society, then you need to have enough resources so you don't have to participate in the society. Because everything that you still really need, somebody else really could do it for you, as long as you have the resources to let them do it. Like, for instance, if they say they're not going to let you into the bank, they're not going to let you into the DMV, they're not going to let you into any of those public places anymore. Well, for a wealthy person, or even a person that has a fraction of wealth, that's not a place that they go to anyway. They send their lawyers to do that. Okay, so I just want to make this very clear, because we don't have to get all super spiritual tonight, even though we may. To be very direct, what is really being requested is that you make the move to start putting yourself onto a level where you wouldn't really be the operating component anyway to go and fulfill some of the basic things that go on in the matrix. Because, as I mentioned today, even when it comes to interacting with the matrix from a level of like your car, your house, your bills, all the different things where you have to interact and sign stuff and send money with the matrix, you understand that they had already set up a system where your business does that. Like, there are people that never operate in their name. They operate in the name of their business. Their power is on in the business. You ever seen somebody with their power is on in a business name, even if it's in a residential district? It's like, here's my trust, put it in there. So all of their payments and all their transactions is not going through them. So also the trust and the person who had power over the trust, which would be the vaccinated lawyer, who knows? They are the ones that are the operatives that go into these different places and make all the moves for you. But the reason why that kind of whole aspect of looking at things could be foreign to us sometimes is because we haven't even seen that type of wealth in a while. And that kind of ability or thought to be able to send somebody else to go and do things that you no longer have access to because you don't want to be compromised in a certain kind of way. Because that's all this is going to get down to here in a moment. Because there's also a push in society to begin to force people, if you may, to create their own nucleuses in their own bubbles if they no longer want to conform with all the rules of the fake matrix. I want to make sure that's very clear, because I don't want to use the word matrix as it's just the negative things. It's the fake matrix that I'm talking about and these systems that are coming into play. So when they can't get you with the FUD, Like, you know, here we go. It's again, the music is on, the lady is screaming, the thing is on the TV, the plane hits the building. We need to go to war. You see what I mean? So when they can't get you with that, they got to flip the energy. And that one is the fear of missing out. So back to what I was saying, I called a friend of mine the other day that I felt like was, you know, we had the same teacher. Our teacher is not here anymore. In fact, I put him on to our teacher, but he accelerated through the arts of understanding how to take care of your body. And so with this recent event that happened in Costa Rica, and I know that he's connected in certain ways, I called him and I was just trying to see, you know, what he was doing about this situation and how he was handling it. And I found out that he had actually had it administered to him twice, the jab. And he told me why. And it boiled down to 2 floor ticket seats at the Miami Heat game. There was a fear of missing out. He said he got there to the stadium. He was with his rich cousins, and they had already been going in on him a lot about this because there were places that they were going, you know, Dubai and different places where, you know, he couldn't go. And then he ended up with these floor ticket seats in his hand, and they were at the stadium with it. I was like, you know what? This is just a trial for something. You see what I mean? It's like if you find yourself in a point where you're having to make decisions right now, just remember, just gain footing. Get your fortress together. Because that's kind of how it hit him. It didn't hit him with like, oh, you're going to catch it and oh, you're going to die and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't care about any of that. But man, them floor ticket seats. So fear of missing out. What is this? This is when you think that something is unfolding that is so great that you conform to whatever the requirements are for you to participate in that because you don't want to miss out on that. And that, of course, happens when people like right now, you see more people will buy Bitcoin at $60,000 than they will ever buy it at 30. More people bought it at 20 than they ever bought it at 5. Because there's a psychological thing going on here, and it's playing out in anything that has to do with energy. And we talked about how the candlestick on the stock market chart was actually created by the oldest entrepreneur, and they say the richest man to ever live, which was a Chinese gentleman who ran the Silk Road. And the candlestick was about the emotional cycles that people go through when they're going from FUD to FOMO, or called bear to bull. And it's a emotional energy. It has nothing to do with computers and any of this kind of stuff. It's all emotion and sentiment about something. And so right now, since we're basically living in a blockbuster, be on point when you start hearing the John Grisham tunes playing and the big brass and all that kind of stuff, and you're feeling that energy to go in and do something and to make decisions. And if those decisions are based around things that are of an illusionary nature, are empty threats, and the data is inaccurate, stay on point. And what I mean by empty threats also is that the law is a real strong, powerful thing. Because let's say if you do something against it, then there's grounds for penalty. But that also works 2 ways. So what's also going on behind the scenes that you're not seeing is there are massive lawsuits that are being won on the side of people being forced to do things that are actually against their rights, and they just have the awareness to go and get a lawyer. In fact, that's become a whole nother money industry. So you see how in every time something is happening in the world, what it is just that, oh, well, no, the energy is shifted over there. Now, of course, you can stay in the wake of it. You can stay in, oh, my goodness, everything is gone from here. It's like a town when the military moves out. You know how the military's in a town. It's just like it's hustling and busting, people coming in and out. There's buses, there's planes, there's trains, there's money, there's restaurants, there's whole nine, because that's the infrastructure that's needed. But when the military moves out, it's just like it's a ghost town. So for us, we have to make sure that we're in alignment with our original purpose and our original goals, and we're not getting waves thrown over our projection because we're being tied up into a blockbuster flick and we don't realize that we actually do still have real legal power. It doesn't mean you have to go grab your big rod and big crystal to go and pray off, I don't know, some demon. Just on a simple level, you actually have real legal rights. And so don't let the next news article, the next publication on CNN, whatever, have you making choices and decisions about how you're going to run your house all of a sudden. Go and seek advice.
Right, Wholeness and Balance Vibration fam, we're at that, I won't say the last leg of the journey. I can't be that cocky. We're going to go in here and we're going to deliver some power and some knowledge and connection. It's been a paradise. It's been so many words. I'm tired of the words already. I've been tired of the words. It's just been beyond words. So how about that?
It feels great.
There's a statement that a lot of people make about when they make really strong friends, and they always say, hey man, you know, I hope one day our kids play together. And that was something that I remember years ago, me and Sean talking about. So to see it in fruition to that level, again, is more confirmation that we actually deliver these projections. And just with the children, I mean, you see how, you know, they have a lot to show us, because when they get together, it's just like nonstop. And as parents, we're always glad when a child, you know, especially of some kind of equivalent age, is going to be around, because that means that you're probably going to get a break.
What are you doing today? You feeling good? So what do you got on? You got a watermelon? What's up with you?
I already went to the beach and I took a shower in the river.
Does it feel good?
Yes. Refreshing water over there. It's gonna be good. Did you get in there? It's fresh.
And so just to see the kids connected into the space, obviously Envision had some kid stuff going on, but it was just so powerful to see children from the tribe come together and then actually begin to engage with each other. So imagine 10, 15 years in the future, these children now have tribe as common ground to what they learned and what they're about and what they represent.
How are you today?
Yeah, here we are. We're on the ground. Wow, they wasn't kidding when they talking about right on the beach. Wow, when it starts getting hot out here, we'll be able to jump right in this water, but the great thing is we have the shade of all these amazing trees.
And again, that's forging the future. You can't really say you're futuristic or doing anything in relation to the future unless you're working with the kids. And even these simple interactions are paramount for them to have this foundation, and even parents to have a foundation that is outside of the scope of where they would generally be able to bring their child. So opening up those spaces and seeing how well they work is just another level of the success.